Venom Bites. Nice hacker name. Do you want me to share my screen or do you want to wait?
Yeah, so we'll be waiting for Frida to join in. Yeah, she's going to be the anchor. So when she joins in, then we'll let you know when you can share your screen.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm trying to set up the YouTube screen now.
Got it.
Yep. You have to let me- Okay. All right, so we should be beginning in 10 minutes. What to share the link now?
Hello everyone. Sorry, please can you confirm if you can hear me? Hi everyone.
We can hear you.
Okay. I did not see
I
connect
can
now.
hear you, Frida.
Okay, so we would begin in the next 10 minutes. Thank you everyone for joining today's event. Thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. So we'll give a in the next 8 minutes we would actually begin. we have to give time for more people to join in and enter into the room. So yes, so while we wait, Daniel will play us some very good songs on the background while we wait. So Daniel, over to you.
All right, give me a minute.
Okay, so due to some technical difficulties, I will be playing the music from my end, right? I'll be playing the music from my end. So yeah, so I think we should give the man of the session choice, right? So our wonderful guest for today, what song would you like to listen to? What song would you like us to play?
What song would I like you to play?
Yes.
I'd say some like hacker type music, like some synth wave. Like it's
Okay, I will check that out. Do you have any specific song?
they have like a synth wave station on YouTube, I think.
Okay, I'll check. I think I was. Let me check. If I was spelling the synth wave correctly.
It's SYNTHWAVE.
Okay, okay, okay. I've seen it. Let
I
me
could probably
share.
send you. I could
Okay, I
probably
think.
send you the link.
Okay, I think that would. I think that would help. Okay, let me open it here. Okay. Okay, got it. My sound. Can you hear my sound? Oh my. Okay. No worries. Let me share. Can you hear my sound now? Okay, so I think we'll stop the music there. It is officially 4:10 by my time and 11:10 by your time too. I got it right, didn't I? Yes, I did. Okay, so we're about to begin the event. Hello, everyone. My name is Frida. I am the leader for the Women in Crooners group, and this is our April webinar. Think like a hacker and lead like a boss. And we have a very seasoned expert in today's session. He has over 20 years of experience, and I mean, I think his experience is older than me, Seth. So he has his years of experience is older than me. So you can see the wealth of knowledge we are going to get from today's session. So everyone, tighten your seatbelts if you are in your cars, sit upright, get your headphones. Ignore that I'm not wearing headphones, and just get yourself prepared for today's session. And to begin today's session, we would start with an opening remark from the lead of the Cyber Crooners, Daniel. So, Daniel, over to you.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Please confirm you can hear me. Am I audible to you? All right, yes. And welcome to another exciting session hosted by the Cyber Crooners community. For those joining us for the very first time, we're a vibrant community focused on learning, collaboration, and growth, especially in the ever-evolving cybersecurity field. Every month, we invite industry experts to share their insights, helping bridge the gap between knowledge and real-world applications. If you're not yet part of the community, don't worry, the link will be shared in the chat. Would love for you to join us. Now, today's session is titled Think Like a Hacker, Lead Like a Boss. And trust me, you are in for a treat. Taking us through to this journey is no other than Clint, an expert in cybersecurity with over 20 years of experience. He doesn't just understand how the hacker's mindset, but also knows how to channel into thinking, powerful, and strategic leadership. You might be wondering, are we learning how to hack? Well, kind of, but with a twist. It's about adopting and hacker's critical thinking skills while leading ethically, smartly, and boldly in today's security landscape. So buckle up, Clint's about to take us on a deep, insightful, and action-packed ride. Let's dive in. Over to you, Clint.
All right, thanks, Daniel and Frida. Welcome, everyone. Can I share my screen? I think you need to. I can't hack Zoom yet, so I don't know if I can
Okay,
get myself permission.
yeah, sorry. Before Clint starts, I think we should do the short intro. So we have a very brief introduction of our speaker for today. Is that okay by you? Before you begin.
Sure.
Okay, so everybody drum roll. Okay, so again, everybody, welcome to today's session. And our speaker for today is Clint. He is a heavyweight in cybersecurity, and his career actually walks the talk. He started as a special agent to the US Department of Justice. He has specialized in crime investigations, mastering dark web operation, and dismantling online firearm trafficking networks. His undercover work helped take down illicit marketplaces that many only read about. And he didn't just stop there. After federal service, he transitioned into the private sector, leading from the front as senior manager of offensive security at Capital One. He built and led penetration testing teams, trained technical staff, and aligned security strategies to real business objectives, showing that real security leaders need to think both as hackers and executives. Today, in 2025, he wears multiple hats. He's the senior instructor and training architect at Cybersecurity, and he has authored over 25 hands-on courses. He's a purple team content developer at Rangeforce, and he builds real-world cyber threat labs. He's a global trainer and mentor for over 1,000 law enforcement professionals in dark web investigations, and he's a featured thought leader across media discussing ethical hacking and cyber threats. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, women and men, everyone here, let us give a big applause as we welcome to the virtual stage our guest for today, Clint Kehr. I got it right, didn't I?
Yes, you got it.
Woo!
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. I'm getting good. I'm getting good. I'm getting good. So yeah, over to you. Yes, over to you.
All right. Thank you so much. That was quite the intro. I know you said 20 years. You actually hacked me, right? So you both of you have learned already how to hack, right? So that's good. All right. Let me know when I can share my screen so we can go through this presentation. I like Michael. Michael's very expressive. So I used to be a professor, so I may call on some of you. Um, So this will be interactive, right? So if you're driving, hopefully you're not driving and texting at the same time. But everyone, let me know where you're zooming in from, and also where are you in your cybersecurity journey, or maybe you're not in cybersecurity. But I'd like to hear, so I get to know all of you, where you're from and what your plans are in cybersecurity.
You guys, the floor is open. You guys can speak. He wants.
Yeah.
He's interacting. You guys interact. Interact. Interact.
Can I? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Me. Um, Good day, everyone. I hope we're all doing fine. My name is Michael. I'm a cybersecurity professional. I got the desire to go into cybersecurity at the beginning of this year to work in the majorly on the defensive side of security. I'm currently an intern at Screwville Academy, and I'm really enjoying the process of learning and getting to meet more professionals, especially cyber Crooners.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you, Clint.
Anyone else? You can put it in the chat if you're feeling shy.
All right. Frida, can Clint share his screen now?
Yeah,
You
that's
might have
what
to
I'm.
make me a host.
Okay, just
Okay.
all right, Clint,
Oh,
I think you are good to go.
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. You can see me and me. Awesome. This is like before, like how it started, right? This is how it started in this photo here on the PowerPoint presentation, and this is how it's going. So hopefully, it doesn't look too bad, right? They're like, I've been doing cybersecurity for 5 years and they look much older. So hopefully I don't look much older than my photo here. This is actually when I started doing cybersecurity when I was an agent. But this is me when I was younger. If you look at LinkedIn, um, this is my LinkedIn photo. I've kept it that way. I think some people keep their younger photos, but yes, this is me when I was bright-eyed and happy to get into cybersecurity and ethical hacking. All right. So that was a great intro about me, Frida. My journey into cybersecurity was not a normal path. So some of you are interns, which is great, getting into cybersecurity. I was in federal law enforcement for a while, and really, I wanted to be a hacker. Like from when I was very little to 20 years in cybersecurity. I remember the movie Hackers. Has anyone seen the movie Hackers from the 90s?
No.
No, it's a great, that's some homework, okay? See the movie Hackers. It is not accurate in hacking, but that's really what got me interested in hacking was this movie back when I was a kid. If you want some movie suggestions, Hackers one of them. Swordfish is another one. So those are kind of good ones. Mr. Robot is a good series. Probably the most realistic series that's out there is Mr. Robot. and that's like 4 seasons long. It's really good. But I did undercover operations. I got into a unit where I was working, and that unit was did dark web investigations, which sounds really cool. It was really cool. So basically, what happened was they identified somebody who was selling weapons on the dark web, on a dark market website. Have people heard of things like Silk Road? Has anyone heard of Silk Road before?
I haven't.
Venom Bytes has. I'd expect somebody with a hacker name to know what that is. So if we back up, the dark web is a browser for the most part called Tor, or the onion router. Onion meaning multiple layers. So if I go to a website, traditionally in law enforcement, I would know who owns that website, particularly if they're doing something bad, right? If they're hosting something illegal or selling something illegal, I would be able to go to their web hosting company and figure out who they are. With the dark web, though, is routed through all these different nodes to anonymize where these servers are. And for law enforcement, it was very difficult to track and take down these servers because we didn't want people selling illegal things. But the dark web allows people to sell illegal things on them because there isn't an easy way to identify who owns it. So what we do is we target the people selling bad things on dark market websites. Some of these things are firearms, and that's what I got into. We identified the person who was selling firearms, and they agreed to let us run their account. So I became a weapons vendor on the dark web. I know it's hard to imagine me selling weapons on the dark web, but that's what I did. And I didn't actually give them guns or things like that. We made sure they didn't get that. But we tried to figure out who they were and then arrest them. So this happened actually all over the world, not just the US, but all over the world. People wanted to buy firearms. And it was a very exciting time, a very interesting time. But that sparked my creativity into learning more about the dark web. So I know we're still on the agenda slide. But we're going to talk about that transition into cybersecurity. We're going to talk about the hacker mindset. We're going to talk about things I'm sure you all think about, like, do I need a certification? If so, which certification do I need? We're going to talk about how you can get into hacking yourself if you're not already. I'm sure Venom Bytes is already into hacking just from the name. And then I'm going to talk about being a boss. And being a boss isn't just the title, right? There are managers and there are leaders. And just because you're a manager doesn't mean you're a leader. And just because you're a leader, it doesn't mean you're a manager. There's a puzzle for you to figure out there. So what that looks like, what real leadership looks like, what hiring managers are looking for. So if you're looking to get a hacking job or into cybersecurity, pay attention to this slide. And also how to build your brand. But with that, let's get started. I kind of already got started. But I talked a bit about my dark web journey. I was also a Navy reservist here. So, there's a possibility here if you have a full-time job to get a part-time job in the military. So I was in the Navy here in the States. They offer a lot of training, a lot of free training to those of us who are especially cyber training. So there's something called the Defense Cyber Investigation Training Academy, or DCITA. We like our acronyms. So while I was an agent, I was also going through training there, free training, and I was learning about things like Linux. I was learning about things like firewalls. I was learning about defense. I was learning about networking. So these things were very difficult for me to figure out coming from a law enforcement background because it's something that I hadn't done before and something that I didn't know, but something that I was interested in. So I started to study more and more and more, and eventually decided to leave law enforcement because what happened was I took a course at university in ethical hacking. And I'm not sure if where you are, they have courses like this. But I took a course that was basically like, can you hack this course? So our instructors would teach us a little bit of knowledge, and then that whole week we had to actually hack into a server in a virtual environment, and if you didn't hack it, you failed the course. People actually failed the course because they couldn't literally hack it. But I loved it. To me, this was great. Why? Because I
The motor
had
is leaving. The boss is leaving now.
someone's off. Someone's off mute. So you literally had to hack it to pass the course. But this was the coolest thing for me because in my mind, I'd been trained or taught to follow these rules, follow these orders, follow these directives, right? Because in law enforcement and the military, this is how we're taught. So this train of thinking like a hacker, became very interesting and very important to me, and actually caused me to leave law enforcement because I wanted to be a hacker. And like a good hacker, I hit roadblocks getting into hacking, but I learned that sometimes the path isn't a straight line. Sometimes the path is moving around to get to where you want to be. So I'd worked in intelligence in the military. I worked in intelligence in law enforcement. So I went from law enforcement agent to cyber threat intelligence. Have people heard of Verizon? Verizon, the big company. So Verizon, I joined them. There's something called the Data Breach Investigation Report, or DBIR. If you haven't read that, I'd really suggest if you want to get into cybersecurity, reading the DBIR from Verizon. They're very well known for this. It's basically an analysis of different breaches for that year and how they happen and what the different threat actors are that do that. But I got into doing dark web intelligence for Verizon, but I still want to be a hacker. So I took what's called the OSCP. Do people know what the OSCP is? Don't be shy. Okay, I got a thumbs up. Got a couple thumbs up. All right, what's the OSCP? I told you I was a professor. I like calling on people. Who knows what it is? Let me know. We got a shy group. It's okay.
The OSCP is a certification for those who want to become penetration testers or ethical hackers.
Yes, Gabriel, that's right. Absolutely. So this is probably one of the more difficult tests. Why? Because it is a 48-hour exam. 48 hours. The first 24 hours, or I should say 23 and a half hours, you have to hack into different virtual machines in a virtual environment, but you have to find flags, okay? So if you find enough flags, then you write a report, and then you submit your report, and they look at it and they say, did they understand this? Did they get this? And if you pass it, it shows to a hiring manager, one, that somebody knows how to hack from a technical perspective, right? And the second thing is that you know how to write a report. You know how to write a report clear enough for someone to understand it. So if I'm a hiring manager and I don't know much about somebody, if I see that they have OSCP, I know that they're technical, that they have grit. Because if you're up late at night or early in the morning hacking something, I know you don't give up. I know you don't give up, and I know if you've taken it more than once, you really don't give up because you chose again to take this exam and maybe pass, maybe not. So that's why OSCP is such a big thing in the hacking community. So I passed this exam after my third try, and that's when I got into bug bounty hunting. Does anyone here do bug bounty hunting? Not yet. Okay. Bug bounty hunting is a good way to get into ethical hacking, okay? The thing with bug bounty hunting is I would make sure you have the basics before you start doing it. And places like HackerOne do have boot camps or things that you can get into that train you in how to do web application penetration testing, which is really what it is for the most part. So if you really want to get into hacking, I'd also recommend getting into bug bounty more, and you can make money from it, right? But also you can learn. I've taught at the college level. I taught at a local college here in Maryland in the US, where I am right now. And I've also made courses for Cybrary and Rangeforce. Has anyone heard of either of these companies, Cybrary and Rangeforce? Okay. They both have free, I say free, right? A lot of companies offer free paths. Eventually, they want you to pay, right? Because they want to make money. But both of these platforms do have some free courses. So if you're interested, I definitely recommend looking into that. If you're on LinkedIn Learning, I have a course there. I will say it's a little dated. It's like OSCP prep or offensive penetration testing, something like that is on LinkedIn Learning. So if you have LinkedIn Learning, you can go through my course there. But I will say it's like 3 years old and I'm refreshing it now. So that's another resource that you have. So I have a few certifications. We'll talk more about that. And I'm actually not a pen tester anymore. I've moved into security architecture. Does anyone know what security architecture is? Has anyone heard of it before? Everyone's heard of a pen tester. Not everyone's heard of security architect, have they? Okay, Michael knows. All right. Can anyone tell me what it is?
Okay. So security architecture has to do with designing an organization's security posture to effectively respond to security incidents and handle them in the cases of breaches. Okay.
All right, Michael, thank you. Yes, that's absolutely part of what we do. So I used to break things, right? Now I build things. I help protect things. And I think it's important, and what I think why I got hired is because I have this hacker mindset. Because a lot of people don't have that. And they want somebody that can come into it and help them think like an attacker would. And that's how we build these secure systems, is we try to put ourselves in the shoes of an attacker and figure out what they would do and then put up defenses, build defenses to protect the organization. So how do we think like an attacker? So I would say in law enforcement, it was very important to pay attention to details, right? If I didn't pay attention, I could be in trouble, right? Even my life could be in danger if I didn't pay attention. They said always look at the hands, right? Because the hands are what can hurt you. In hacking, always look at the computer, right? And if we're hacking, we always have gloves on, right? That's what they teach us as hackers, always wear gloves. I'm kidding, it's a joke. But what do you do when you hear hacker, right? You think of somebody that has a hoodie on, that has gloves on, maybe a mask. But that's not what a hacker looks like in real life, right? Hackers look like us. I know I'm wearing a Hack the Box jersey right now, but a hacker can be anybody. And a hacker isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'd say for the most part, hackers aren't bad people. Hackers are people who are curious about technology, right? And I would say all of you here are curious about technology. That's why you're here, I'm guessing. So all of you can think and be a hacker. The biggest thing, though, is paying attention to detail. And that's how we can hack things, is you'll hear the term enumeration. Have people heard that term, enumeration? You know what it is? Enumeration means collecting evidence, collecting information, just like a detective would, right? So what I would ask my students as extra credit is, what separates a good hacker from a great one? The answer is attention to detail. Okay. So I also had to shift my mindset, and I talked about this before, because I was used to following the rules. You know, you all go to school, you probably have taken tests. What do you do to pass a test, right? You gotta memorize terms. They teach you how to do certain things. They teach you how to follow a checklist, right, of rules. I took 2 courses in university. One was how to set defenses, and one was how to hack. And sets in defenses or setting up firewalls or intrusion prevention systems, they said, here are the steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. An attack, like I talked about, it was hack into this thing, figure it out yourself. And to me, that puzzle was a very interesting thing. So you have to ask yourself, how do I like thinking? Do I like puzzles? Am I curious about things? Or do I like to follow a checklist? Neither is wrong, okay? Neither is wrong. If you like to follow a checklist, there are many jobs in cybersecurity for you, okay? There are many jobs in cybersecurity like defending things, being on the blue team. These are the things you need to do to set up a firewall. That's great. If you want to think about how to solve problems like puzzles, you can go into attacking things. That's not to say you can't switch from red to blue or blue to red. It's just a different way of thinking about things. And what I like to say in hacking is think laterally. We talked about a lot of times we think about attacking something, or we have an objective and we want to go in a straight line. In hacking, we have to think laterally. We have to like playing football, how to move around. Sometimes if you want to go straight for the goal, my son's watching Newcastle right now. That's what I'm talking about that. If you go straight for the goal, you might get a bunch of defenders on you and there's nothing you can do. But if you move around or if you pass the ball around, maybe you'll get a goal, okay? I like American football. So hopefully my soccer reference made sense to all of you, because I did play football when I was a kid, but it's been a minute. But you have to be curious, you have to be creative, and you have to keep a sharp eye open. But the big thing is not just hacking something. The best hackers out there aren't the ones that are really, really good at things technically. If you want to get into this as a profession, the important thing is being able to explain it. Okay? You have to be able to talk to people. How are they going to fix it? If you can't communicate something to somebody, our job really, and I hate to admit it, this is a secret, let's just keep it between us, is hackers are really defenders. We're really on the blue team because we're helping to fix things. So you need to be able to help the defenders fix the problems, and you have to be able to communicate that to people. So it's not just technical skills that are important, it's also being able to communicate to somebody, whether it's written communication or verbal or both. That is what I've seen. The truly good hackers are the ones that get the developers, the blue teamers, to fix it. So remember, it's not just hacking, it's also influencing or inspiring people to fix the problems. Hopefully, I want to make sure I'm sharing sound. I'm going to share sound here too. This is what I tell people when I think of the hacker mindset. Give me a thumbs up when I press play if you can hear it.
This is a square. Can you guess which spot that goes in?
The square.
That's right. It goes in the square hole.
Yes. Okay.
And how about this rectangle? That one
Also the square.
that goes in there too.
Yeah.
Up next, we've got this thin rectangle.
The thin
Can
rectangle.
you guess where that goes?
The thin rectangle.
That's right. It goes in the square hole. And up next, a cylinder.
The circle.
I think that goes in
The circle.
the square hole. Now, we've also got this semicircle right here. Do you see a slot that would fit
The semicircle.
semicircle?
The semicircle.
That's right. It's the square hole. Okay. Up next, the triangle. We know what hole that goes
The
into,
triangle.
right?
Triangle.
That's right. The square hole. And up next, we have the arch.
The arch. The arch.
You guessed it.
The arch.
It goes in the square hole.
All right. I like to think of this as a developer, right? The young lady, and then the hacker is the guy on the right. How'd that video make you feel? I'm just curious. How did it make you feel thinking like a hacker? What do you think I'm trying to get at?
I think there can be one solution to various problems. I don't know. I think so.
That's good. So the developer, right? Whoever made this wants you to put the piece in the right hole, right? But this guy's thinking differently, okay? He's trying different things. He's being creative and he's putting every piece into the same hole, even though that's not what it was intended for. So he's thinking outside the box. And that's how we have to think like an attacker or like a hacker, right? Is we need to think like this guy. Now, the developers, when we hack things, will look like her, but that's why we've got to help them out. We're here to help them out, okay? So how did I move from federal agent mindset into hacking, okay? So like I said, I had to think like a hacker. I had to move laterally. I couldn't just be a pen tester. If you want to just be a pen tester and you're applying to pen testing jobs and you're not getting in, think laterally, okay? Think maybe there's a job that I'm really good at. Maybe I'm really good at, you know, different things in cybersecurity, so I can join an organization that has a pen test team and I can prove my worth as a SOC analyst, and then I can move into the pen testing team. Okay? So just don't think if you don't get it the first time that that's it, that that's the end. Okay? I know plenty of blue teamers or people who have worked in the SOC who are now pen testers. Okay? But I got into it, you know, doing cyber threat intelligence, but also bug bounty hunting. I was not doing bug bounty hunting. I was the person on the other end that was triaging the vulnerabilities. So if you ever reported an issue at Capital One and you weren't happy with what happened when you reported that, that wasn't me, okay? I was always I was always a fair person to everyone who reported a vulnerability, okay? But I got to see both sides of it, right? I wanted to understand both sides. So I've done bug bounty and I also triage bug bounty. And that really expanded my mind too, because I was thinking like a hacker here. I wasn't just thinking this one report and this one vulnerability. I was thinking, how does this affect the entire organization I'm in? And when I expanded my mind and thought bigger, that's what got me onto the pen test team, right? They said, this guy is thinking big picture. He's trying to solve the bigger problems. Let's get him into hacking things within the enterprise. So I was lucky enough to get onto the pen testing team, and I did pen test. I found some really cool things. But then they said, hey, Clint, you're really good at this stuff. We want you to manage people. So I had to shift my mindset from being a hacker and being good technically to also being a hacker, but learning how to build people, okay? Build people to be good hackers. So that's another way to think, is how do I build up my team to think like hackers and work together, okay? So I talked a bit about what I do now. So I actually left people leadership to now do more strategic things, right? It's cool to always be a hacker, like that's really great, but I want to learn more about how to defend because I want to see both sides. So now I'm not a people leader, but I'm helping fix things at a big level. So just because you're not a people leader doesn't mean you can't be strategic. Have people heard of GRC? GRC? Do people know what GRC is? I think it's governance, risk, and compliance, right? So GRC is more the strategic way of thinking, and we need people to think like that, right? Because there are technical, operational people in cybersecurity, the people that hack things, the SOC analysts that work on alerts and things like that. But we need the people out there working on the policy and looking at the, you know, are we following these checklists? What are the laws and regulations that we need to follow? That's important too. So everyone, you know, we're like, wouldn't like say a family, but we're like a team, right? I was in the military and we all worked together. I might have been an intelligence officer, but I gave intelligence to teams that were on the ground to help them figure out what they were going to do. So we all work together in cybersecurity. So how do we lead like a boss? So when I was a people leader, and you know, I'd like to get back into it, but right now my focus is different. And again, I'm still a leader, right? I'm still leading teams. I'm still giving advice. And just because you're junior on a team doesn't mean you can't lead, doesn't mean you can't, you know, and I like to do this with junior folks too, is I like to give them the opportunity to lead because that's what good bosses do, right? They want you to be able to explore, and they want you to be able to flex your leadership muscle, if you will. But the big thing is not controlling people. If you're in a leadership position, it's not about control. I'm not tracking how many times you've badged into the office. I'm not tracking on Teams how, if you're green or not. That's not a big thing. The thing is, as a leader, as a boss, I need to trust my people. If have people heard of Simon Sinek, the guy Simon Sinek? Okay, he's a great author and he's great on leadership. A book recommendation is Leaders Eat Last. If you're into leadership, I'd really recommend Simon Sinek and this book, Leaders Eat Last. But that's really like, if you've heard of servant leadership, that's really the core of it, right? Is you want to build a high trusting team. But Simon, he worked with the Navy, the US Navy SEALs, and what he found is that people on a team would rather have somebody that performs at an okay level, but everyone trusts them, rather than performs really well, but nobody trusts them. So trust on a team is incredibly important. And as a leader, it's your job to make sure that people trust each other on this team. Okay? The other thing is, as a leader, we want to listen. We don't want to be the strongest voice in the room. We want to listen first. We want to let people who are doing the work speak. Okay? And the other thing that I learned in the military is give credit. Give credit to the people who have done the work. The best leaders that I've seen are not the ones that say, look what I did, or take credit for their team. They're the ones that give credit to the people on the team. And that actually makes that leader look really good, because who gave them space and gave them inspiration to do that work? That was the leader, right? So that's how you lead like a boss, okay? The other thing is you take blame, okay? If someone on your team does something wrong, you bring them aside, you let them know, but ultimately you're in charge and you take the blame for that, okay? You shield your people from people who are trying to, from upper leadership, if you will. You take the blame because you're responsible for them, right? At the end of the day. And you want to create clarity. You don't want to confuse people. You want to give them a mission and have them understand why they're doing what they're doing. I'm a parent too. And with my kids, I don't say just, you need to do this, okay? Because I said so. I hate that. Hopefully none of your parents did that to you or your bosses, right? Do it because I said so, right? You do it. If I tell my kids, I'd like you to do this because I don't want you to chew ice, son, because it's proven to be bad for your teeth, okay? So stop chewing ice. And here are the studies, whatever. So then he understands, right? It's not just me saying, you need to stop doing it. I'm saying that loudly in case he hears me. But definitely let people know why you're asking them to do something. Also, you need to give respect to get respect. Bad leaders lead by fear. Good leaders lead through mutual respect. And it's also how you show up, okay? I said you don't have to have the title of manager to be a leader. I've seen plenty of junior people in the military, law enforcement, and in cybersecurity who are the junior folks. And I'll tell you this, okay? Those of you who are just coming through in your early years of cybersecurity, you're passionate, you're curious, you might know about the latest and greatest tools that the people who have been doing it for a while don't know about. So when I was a manager on this team, I would love hacking. We do things like hack the box, we'd hack in an environment. I liked hacking with them and I'd give them space to demonstrate things because they usually have the latest and greatest tools. So thinking like a boss is, you don't have all the answers as a boss. You hire smart people, you work with smart people work for you, and then they show up and you let them shine. Okay? So that's my advice when you get into that leadership position or how you show up as a boss. So here's the stuff you've been waiting for. How do you become a hacker? I have a home lab, okay? Virtualization software is free now, either VMware or VirtualBox. It is free to download. I will say VMware is a little tricky to download. VirtualBox is maybe a little bit easier, but set up a home lab, do the research. A lot of people ask me for the answer, and that's a bad way to think in hacking. In hacking, we have to think up or we have to do a lot of researching. And I will tell you that ChatGPT doesn't have all the answers or AI, right? A lot of times, this is why we're going to keep our jobs in pen testing because we have to think critically. So the answer won't always be there when you ask ChatGPT. But, go online, study how do I download Kali Linux in VirtualBox. Then there's something called Metasploitable or a damn vulnerable web app. How do I set these things up in my home environment, in my home lab? These people that are very curious and you really get the hands-on, those are the people that I like to work with and I like to hire, okay? There's plenty of platforms out there now that help you and that are, I say free. They have free tiers, right? But things like Try Hack Me, Hack the Box, VulnHub, hopefully VulnHub is still free, but that's where people will put like free vulnerable boxes in there for you to hack, and they normally have walkthroughs. These are really good ways for you to get involved if you want to do more pen testing or learn more about pen testing. Why I started teaching was because this was all new to me. And I forget who said it or what the technique is, but if you're able to teach someone something, that means you really understand it. So for me, in order to really understand hacking, I had to teach people, or I forced myself to teach people about it because that helped me learn. So one, I'm not only helping teach other people, which really is very important, right? But I'm also teaching myself. And that's why I keep doing this. This is why I keep making labs. This is why I keep teaching and I keep learning. And I also built internal academies at the places that I worked because I felt like it was very important, especially in this profession that changes so rapidly. I mean, I started pen testing, in 2014 or so. In 2019, I really got into it. But back then, we didn't have as much cloud infrastructure. We didn't have AI, really. We didn't have GraphQL. We didn't have these technologies that are very prevalent right now. That's why you have to keep learning and keep on top of these things, because if you don't, you will get rusty and you'll become irrelevant, unfortunately. So stay thirsty, stay hungry. So here's some free resources. I say free again because they normally have a free tier. Just know you will have to pay eventually. But they academyhackthebox.com, that's their academy. There's also hackthebox.com that has labs in it. They do have a free path called, I think it's called Starting Point, so you can get started on that. Cybrary has some free courses. Over the Wire, this one's been around for a while, okay? But this one teaches you a few different things. I think it's, I call it old school, but it's all free and it's all very interesting. So if you want to kind of dip your toe in the water, I would say you don't have to sign up. That's why I'm saying that. If you want to dip your toe in the water of hacking, Over the Wire is probably my first choice. Portswigger has these labs. They make Burp Suite. So if you're more into web app pen testing, this is a great resource and it's free. So that's to think about it too, right? Just because I'm a hacker, that could mean many different things. And you need to figure that out. If you're a pen tester or a hacker, do you like hacking mobile devices? Do you like hacking, and I say all this like do it legally and ethically, right? Do you like hacking web applications? Do you like hacking networks? Do you like hacking IoT? These are all different fields that you can get into in pen testing. So just because I was a pen tester doesn't mean I was good at everything. I really liked hacking applications, websites. That was kind of my thing. But there are other people that like to do exploit development. There are other people that like to hack mobile devices. And what are the two types of mobile devices that we have? What's one of them? I see Frida saying something. I don't know. Maybe she's not talking to.
Is it Apple and iOS and Android?
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And they're different, okay? So I could be really good at hacking Android, but I might not know anything about iOS, all right? So even in mobile app pen testing, I have to learn about two different devices, two different operating systems. So just understand there's so many things to learn, okay? I put GitHub just because a lot of the proof of concepts on there, you can set up like vulnerable Dockers and proof of concepts. Just know this, GitHub has been known for hosting malicious scripts, A lot of things are not vetted. So this is why it's important to know the scripts that you're running, because they could be destructive. So if you go on something like GitHub to download, a vulnerable application or a hacking script, read it, understand it. You could throw it in ChatGPT. It will help you out if you're not that good at coding. But that's why you need to really pay attention when you look at things on GitHub. And then I put Try Hack Me on there again. And I've had many people ask me, which one do I think is best? I'm going to throw that back and say, that's really on you, okay? Because I've tried Try Hack Me, I've tried Hack the Box, and out of the two, I prefer Hack the Box. But you might prefer Try Hack Me. So try these different platforms and see which one you like. Their teaching style or the way that you learn can be different for you. So just because I like Hack the Box doesn't mean you're not going to like Try Hack Me better. All right, certifications. What are the big ones? I said OSCP was a big one. Don't be afraid if you fail it. Again, as a hiring manager, I wouldn't say prefer, but it really showed me a lot about somebody if they had failed OSCP and kept going and finally passed it. Everyone talks about CISSP or CISP, okay? If you're consulting, so again, there's so many different jobs in this field. There's an internal pen test team. There are consultants that do pen testing for a bunch of different companies. Everyone asks me, do you have a CISSP? And I know you need 5 years of experience to get it, but you can get it your associate of ISC squared or your associate CISSP. Get that, okay? And then get the 5 years. But get that certification out of the way because it is important and it does open doors for you to get more broadly into cybersecurity. All right. But failure is important. So I talked about when I was in the military and I went through DCITA and I was taking these courses and I would almost fail them. In fact, I did. I remember I failed one of them, but I failed them where I got like 70%, which is like barely passing. And I'm like, is this the career that I should be doing? Like, am I really cut out for this? And if I would have given up, I would not have gotten to where I am today. I would not have got the opportunity to do all these jobs. But I got better, and I took every failure as a way to get better. And I'll tell you, when you fail something, you work extra hard to pass it the next time. So when I took it again, I can tell you when I took OSCP the first time versus the last time, the first time, I failed. I did okay, but I failed. The last time I pwned or hacked every single machine. I got 100% and I turned in the lab. Okay, so I knew way more. I knew way more at the end. So failure actually made me better in the end, okay? The other thing is don't be afraid to share your failures because everyone's on social media, everyone's on LinkedIn, and what do you see on LinkedIn? I am happy to say, I am proud to say, I am elated, I am beyond excited to announce that I have passed this and that and all the other things, okay? I know you've all seen it. I know you've all seen it. But when do you see people say, I failed? I've seen that too, right? And I've posted that too, because I want to let people know that in your journey in cybersecurity, you will fail. You will fail, all right? This is not a career for people that are used to winning all the time, all right? So be comfortable with failure, especially if you want to be a pen tester. You will fail maybe 99% of the time. So that 1%, that one time that you get lucky and you hack something. So don't give up, right? And share that struggle with other people because it really does help. But I love this line that failure is a far greater teacher than success ever could be. I have a few different things in my office. As I was in the Navy, one says smooth seas never made a skilled sailor. Okay? So these tough times, they teach us things, right? You got to let them teach you. If you just get frustrated and throw up your hands, you're not going to learn. So use your failures to propel yourself forward. What do hiring managers really want? They want people who solve problems and also know how to explain it, right? If you're in a job interview, they'll ask you, like, what is a time where you had to deal with a short deadline to solve a problem? Okay, they want to know how you think. and they want to know that you bring calm and clarity and that you can work with other people, okay? That is not just you. In pen testing, I know a lot of these certifications are you versus the certification. In the real world, you work in a team environment. So hiring managers want to know that you can work in a team environment, that you can communicate, and that you can work under pressure, all right? The other thing is I talked a lot about labs. I will tell you that because I hacked in labs, it really helped me a lot when I became a pen tester. The stuff that I was learning in the labs were applicable to the real world, okay? But if I'm a hiring manager and I say, when have you used Burp Suite? And you said, I use it in a lab. Or I say, what are your favorite extensions? And you list them. And I say, when have you used them? You say, oh, I did it in this lab. I say, okay, that's great. But when have you used it in real life? Okay, I want to know that you've actually can apply the things that you've learned to real life. That's why I talked about bounty hunting. You can say, oh, I built a home lab and I ran through Damn Vulnerable Web App and I really liked the SQL injection thing. And then I did bug bounty and I found a SQL injection and this is how I did it. All right. So that's really important too, is communicating and using it in the real world. And you're going to say, Clint, but I haven't gotten that experience yet, or I don't have that real world experience. Okay, well, the next best thing I would say is having done it in a lab and being able to explain it, because I am seeing how you can explain things, or I did it in university, how you explain things and how you've worked under pressure and with teams. All right. The other thing is, certifications are great. They show me certain things, that you can take tests. There's a difference between memorization exams and practical application exams. I put more weight in the practical application exams. Okay. But don't just collect certifications. If you look at my LinkedIn, you're going to say, Clint, you collect certifications. I do, but I do that to learn. Okay. I do it because I want to learn. So you don't necessarily need all the certifications in the world. You don't necessarily need a certification, but they do help hiring managers understand that you can do certain things that they're looking for. That's why they're on a lot of these job, when you see the job descriptions, that's why they're listed there, because they're kind of a baseline. All right. The other thing is grit, right? As a pen testing manager, I want to know that people failed and I want to know that they picked themselves back up and succeeded and that they're hungry, that they have a curious mind and want to keep learning. So these are the really important things to me. Not that you have a perfect resume, but that you're able to pick yourself up and keep going. So in closing, how we bring this all together is hacking is about expanding your mind to solve problems. Leadership is about expanding other people's minds so they can solve their own problems, right? We, as leaders, as bosses, we want to help other people expand their minds. And the other thing is great hackers don't come from fancy schools. They come from hunger, hustle, and helping others. So with that, here is my email. If you want to reach out to me, I am on LinkedIn. There's my LinkedIn there. And I think I'm 3 minutes over. I'm sorry, Frida and Daniel. But that's how you think like a hacker and lead like a boss.
Wow, 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 wow. Wow, this was a very beautiful, beautiful. Is that beautiful race of power? 50 million. Beautiful. That was a very, very beautiful session, Clint. I'm not even into cybersecurity and I learned a lot. I mean, I can even apply it into my field, which really makes it really, really good. And wow, with all the years and experience, I'm not even surprised you have all this knowledge bubbling inside you. Thank you so much, Clint, for this. Thank you so much for expanding our minds and expanding our understanding to how to actually lead like a boss while also doing our professional lives. Now we have questions and would want to find out that. So before we take questions from the general here, Daniel has a list of questions he would want to ask. So I would give the stage over to Daniel. Daniel, over to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Clint. I learned a lot. I was saying anyone that missed this session missed a whole lot. I didn't even know you were a professor. Like it's just so interesting. I really learned a lot. I was going through your course on cyber yesterday. So actually I opened cyber in 2021, but I did not really do anything. I just opened it for I was getting cybersecurity that time. I didn't really get any courses. But yesterday I was going through, the offensive security. I think that's the name of the course, the OSCP stuff, right? And I mean, I have my jotter here. I learned a lot, really jotting a lot of things. Amazing session, power packed, very impactful. Please, I hope everybody took notes. This is a wealth of knowledge. You can't get this anywhere. There are few people in the world that would, be willing to, impact knowledge into you. So please let us take this very, very seriously. Glint, I am extremely grateful, extremely grateful. All right, so let's go into some of the questions we have. I have some questions here on YouTube, but I will take these ones first before I would go to YouTube. Right. So if you are on YouTube, kindly put your questions in the comment section. We'll take that. So one question we have here is what should I focus on to acquire practical and actionable cybersecurity skills? What should I focus on to acquire practical and actionable cybersecurity skills?
Sure. I talked a lot about these different platforms from the hacking perspective. A lot of them now are also putting a lot of defensive things on their platform or forensic things as well. So really, the first thing that you need to think about is, what do I like doing, or what interests me in cybersecurity? That is probably the biggest challenge, and one that only you can decide, right? Like, do you want to dig into logs and figure out how somebody got, hacked into a Windows machine? Or do you want to be the one that hacked into the Windows machine? Like, everyone says I want to be a pen tester, right? But like, do the research. And the great thing now is there's so many different platforms out there that you can do for free, that you can do the pen testing, but you can also do the blue teaming as well, or the forensics, which I think is still blue teaming, or even cyber threat intelligence. Like, there's this IP address. Who does that? Can you trace that back to the specific threat actor or C2 server? Like, can you get that information? Like Frida, she did that research on me. Like, she did open source intelligence. Maybe she really likes doing stuff like that. So find what you like to do, and then find the platforms that have that information on it, and go for it. And if you can do an internship, the thing that I think I forgot is, I make labs now, but how I got started is I worked for a company for free making labs for them. Like, I like building labs. So I started building labs for this company or this nonprofit organization. And I'm like, this is really cool. I really like doing it. Now I want to get paid for it. Okay. Right? I want to make some money. So, I made it, my side hustle. So if I hadn't have done it first for this company for free, I wouldn't have known that. But I only knew by doing. So get out there, get your hands dirty, get on these platforms, put the reps in, put the time in, figure out what you enjoy doing, and follow that path. And that's not to say there's plenty of influencers out there. I caution you, check them out on LinkedIn. Do they have the credentials? There's plenty of people out there who have a video like, look at me, look at this. But do they know what they're talking about, right? You got to do your research, and you got to know where that person's coming from. Have they been a pen tester for 10 years if they're talking about pen testing, or have they just, been a professional instructor? And that's to say too, just because I might be an okay hacker doesn't mean I'm a great instructor, okay? You need to have that skill set as well. So that's what I'm saying. Pick who speaks to you. Like, there's also TCM, right? I've taken TCM courses. That's a certain teaching style. I've taken courses at Hack the Box. That's a certain teaching style. I've taken stuff at Try Hack Me. That's a certain teaching style. Find the one that speaks to you. Find the one that you like. So that's my advice.
All right, thank you very much for that. I'd also add, Clint, where can we get your courses apart from LinkedIn Learning and Cyber? Do you have any other platforms where we could, just check some of your courses?
There's one on Rangeforce. I think it's rangeforce.com. I think that, oh, sorry, Frida, I just sent it to you. But I'll try to send it to everybody. But That I've done a few courses for them, but I think they just have one free one, which is like a PHP vulnerability. Again, like very web app, very CVE focused. So that's another thing. CVE common vulnerability enumeration from MITRE. You might have heard recently that they like were about to lose funding from the US government, but
Yeah.
luckily got it. Yeah. So that would have been bad. If the CVE database went down or wasn't funded, that
Wow.
wouldn't have been good. But
Yeah.
luckily they've been refunded, not refunded, but they
Yeah.
have funding.
Funding now. Yeah. All right. So I have another question, right? So what's your advice to land jobs for someone just getting into cybersecurity? Because most of these entry jobs, you have a lot of requirements, right? So what's your advice for someone that's not had any job, probably has not gone to the office, is just doing try hack me and hack the box. So what's your advice? What is the pathway per se? I know there's no blueprint, but what's the pathway to get a job that you can just get some feeding from and take care of yourself. So yeah.
It's tough. And I will tell you, it's even tough for me. Like obviously recently got a new job, right? So I had to go back into applying for jobs. And I would get just because you have years of experience doesn't mean you're going to get a job, right? Like that. For me, I got plenty of, thanks for applying, but there's more qualified candidates. And it's like, okay, well, I just got to move on. So, and applying to 100 jobs or more. So when you're getting into this field, sometimes I've seen internships, sometimes I've seen entry-level jobs, and I know sometimes entry-level jobs say like 3 years of experience. But again, think like a hacker, maybe help desk, maybe you do help desk for a few years first. Maybe, if you get that SOC job, you get that SOC job. Maybe, you're doing more like sysadmin stuff or network admin stuff first. And that's to say, some of the best hackers out there have been sysadmins or network admins. That's great. And we didn't even talk about developers, right? I think if you're a developer, that gives you a whole lot of information because ultimately, as I moved more into application security, understanding the code is vitally important. I mean, we want to do really cool things as hackers, like we want to do SQL injection, we want to do cross-site scripting, make the box pop up, steal somebody's cookies, these are really cool things, but you need to understand the code, right? I talked about explaining things to developers, right? If you were a developer, you probably have that inside knowledge. You probably know how to explain to another developer how to fix that problem. And that's to say I've had issues applying for jobs where like, well, you weren't a developer before and we want to hire people with that background. But I didn't give up, right? I kept going forward. So don't be afraid to apply for as many jobs as you feel like will get you to where you want to be. I mean, you want to be thoughtful with your applications, but you also need to get your foot in the door, right? And that might be getting that help desk position, or doing more of that hands-on work with fixing and building computers. But however you can get into the field, and I talked to about these bigger companies, right, that have these different departments. The nice thing about that is when people know you and you've established yourself in the good organizations with good leaders, they will let you move to different departments within that organization. So keep your eyes open for that too when you're looking for companies.
All right, thank you very much for that. So one of the most asked question, right? This is about salary, money, right? So what is the salary range, for someone getting into probably cybersecurity? Now let us streamline it into ethical hacking and pen testing. So what is the salary range and how much can it even get to even at the senior level?
I wish I had, a specific answer. It really depends on where you live, and your skill level. Because like here in the States, they'll have a range, right? Like salary range, and the salary range could be huge. The salary range could be like $100,000 difference, US dollar difference, right? Between, someone that they think doesn't have as much qualifications or experience versus somebody that does. So like, I kind of entered the field at like more of a mid-level range, which was great. I got very lucky. Again, sometimes luck plays a big part of it. But in the US, depending, like I'm in a pretty expensive area. Like you're making six figures, as someone who even at like at a mid-range of experience. If you're more junior, you can still make six figures depending on where you go. We're talking US dollars here, but it could be harder for you to do that. So, I mean, I can't even tell you how much I made. I mean, I could. As a police officer, I wasn't making a lot of money, or as an agent, I had to work my way up there. But cybersecurity pays better.
Yeah, all right. Thank you very much for that. I would ask one last question. Then we'll take the YouTube questions and questions here. All right. So, what's your advice to tackle interviews? So, cybersecurity interviews, what is your advice to tackle it, and how do you prepare properly for an interview?
That's a great question. That's a great question. Because interviews now, I've seen a few different formats, and one of them I've actually had or a few, because I've been on Synac Red Team. You need to do this performative or performance-based interviews, meaning that they're like, here is Hack the Box, or here's this platform, or let me show you something, and you need to hack it, or you need to explain how you hack it. So they really want to see how you think, and they want to see how you perform. So sometimes they will have you actually hack something and write a report. So be aware of that. That's why you do these labs. That's why they're important, because you may run into that in job interviews. The other thing is being able to explain things. Like they could give you a situation like, hey, there's web developers who come to you and say, hey, we're thinking about designing an application. Here's what the front end looks like. Here's a login page. The back end's going to store this type of data. What do you think? So you have to be able to explain, your methodology and how you would threat model this application. So work through that in your mind, right? Use chat. I'm very big on AI. Don't use it as the be all end all. It can point you in different directions, but you got to do the research, right? So, say, here's a question, how would you tackle it? But also make sure you understand it, right? Because there's plenty of people that I've caught in interviews who I can see looking at the side or over here, and I know, hey, they're getting help somewhere. So, do that first. Do that work before, so that you can answer the question without looking like you're reading something.
Yeah. Yeah, on TikTok, you would always see some videos saying, oh, this is how to tackle an interview. They'll put, by the side, you have questions and answers for everything. You have an AI giving you the answers. Yeah. But yeah, always know how to tackle these questions. Do the work first before applying for interviews. All right. So I have this fantastic question here. Someone says, I don't have a BS in cybersecurity, and neither am I in school, but I have some internships, right? So how do I land a job? And is it possible to get a job?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm big on education, but that being said, there are plenty of people I know who here in the States don't even have an associate's degree in stuff. They just have always been hacking, and they understand the technology, and they're able to land a job, or were in the military, and that was their job there, and they're able to get a job that way. So, if you can afford it, or whatever education that you can get can help you, but just know that just because you don't have a computer science degree doesn't mean, I won't say this for everything, doesn't mean you can't get a job. In some cases, they may require that, but it doesn't make or break you in your technical abilities, right? I think there's plenty of resources out there now without a classical education, if you will, to teach you to do well. This is kind of like vocational work, right? Like HVAC or plumbing, right? You can get the hands-on nitty-gritty work out there on these different platforms, hacking into things in a technical way that will teach you how to do this stuff without going to university. So it's not a requirement.
Yeah, definitely. It's just that it's quite a sad in Nigeria here. You would probably have to have a BSc degree or something of that nature. But yeah, focus on technical skills, you can still get jobs. All right, so we have a question from YouTube, from someone named Tech Explorers. Okay, my question is, I've gained a lot of certifications and even the CEH and pen testing by INSEE Council, and I was able to bring down the Amazon website for a few seconds. Wow. Well, did you do that legally? But I can't still land jobs. So that's the first question. He has a lot of certifications, CEH, and pen test by INSEE Council, but he can't even still land job. So what is your advice? What should he try doing?
I don't know how it is everywhere, but the CEH in pen testing, I know it's, it's changed in many years, and there's a practical, it still has a bad reputation, quite honestly. It still has a and I have a CEH, right? That was the first certification I got, and I barely passed that. But I got it because the Department of Defense, that was one of their requirements. So I got it for that. But I'll say if you apply to like a pen testing firm with just a CEH, that probably won't be enough for you. They talked about knowledge-based tests versus performance-based tests. So instead of CEH or with CEH, I would do something like EJPT by INE, or whatever the one from TCM is. Like, do the practical one to show that, like, I have plenty of people in a job interview that can memorize what cross-site scripting is, or DOM-based cross-site scripting, or CORS vulnerabilities are. Like, you can memorize that, but they haven't done it in even a lab environment. And I want to know that you can do that, because pen testing is a very technical thing. So I look more towards these certifications that are more like, can you do the thing?
All right, thank you very much for that, Clint. His second question also relates to certification, but you have heard, right? Go for performance-based ones, right? Know how to do the job, know how to, do this properly, right? And get certifications that will test those skills. All right. So we have someone in the chat. Frida, can you take that question in the chat box?
Yes, I will do such. Okay, so this question is from Michael. He has, I think, three questions. Okay, second, two questions. Two questions. His first question is, now he says he knows passion is very important to continue in cybersecurity. So his question here is, could you suggest some things, ideas, or actions that you can take when you love that will make you love cybersecurity more and have a greater desire to secure system structures and people from cybercrime? Did you hear me? Or
Yes. Yeah.
okay.
The question is a very
I'm trying to, Michael, do you want to come off mute and we can chat?
I think Michael is here, so I think Michael, you can let me unmute him. Is he unmuted? Michael, are you able to unmute?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
So sorry, I'm not the best texter. Don't have to put words together. I'll work on my documentation. So I was like asking, you said something concerning being that will hit roadblocks and the ability, the pure grit to move beyond it. That, and there are sometimes you can hit some roadblocks in anything. I want to just go back. So my question is, like, that passion to want to push through the roadblock, can it be built up, or there's something you can do to have that kind of passion that you failed your OSCP 2 times, but you're still going back? Like, anything you did to build up that kind of passion? That's like my question.
Yeah,
Or you just want to learn?
it's a great question. It's that hunger and that passion to keep going. And I will tell you, everyone has different breaking points, right? Everybody at some point will give up if they keep failing. I know people who have taken OSCP 5 times. I know people who are pen testers now who, take OSCP and fail. So, that's the thing too. And it's something that you actually learn in OSCP is going down rabbit holes. Or I've spent an hour on this one box and I haven't gotten anywhere. What do I do? How do I move in another direction? So I think that's another important thing too is, you will fail, but know when to pivot. Maybe you're applying for internships a pen testing internship. Maybe I need to apply for a blue team, a SOC internship. Maybe, I really like forensics and police work, but at first I need to be a police officer for 5 years before I can get into forensics. So know that, some of these things take time and sometimes you have to pivot. So definitely put the work in on something that you really love and want to do, but know, kind of put in your mind, I'm going to try this for 6 months, right? I'm going to try this for 6 months. I'm going to study for OSCP. If I fail, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to work on another certification. So, that's another important thing is don't burn yourself out so much that like you just throw your hands up and you give up. Know when to pivot to kind of refresh yourself.
Well, thank you.
No
Should I
problem.
ask my second question or you'll read it out?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. I think was my second question was much easier to say.
Okay.
So my second question is that one thing that is very valuable and helps us, like you were telling us your story of how you started from this point. You didn't exactly start at cybersecurity on the dot. You had different things you did before. So from these your years of experience, you have gotten clarity on the things not to do and the things to do. And sometimes us juniors, we want to approach people like you, maybe through text or if we're at events. Can you just maybe mentor me or give me a few minutes of your time to spot the wrong things I'm doing in my journey? Sometimes that approach, some of us may be, realize the word, not confident, or how do we go about that approach, approaching mentors with years of experience?
That's
And
a
don't
great
baffle.
question. Yeah, that's a great question. So, put your feet in the shoes of the mentors as well, because I've mentored people or I've had people that want to be mentored. And, there are so many great mentees, but just know there's like one or two that you're like, hey, let's meet at this day and this time. And they never show up. Okay. So, if you think about it, if you approach someone and you say, hey, this is what I've been working on, or I've looked at your background and these are things that I think you can help me with, like be targeted, right? Do your homework like Frida did when she was spying on me. Like get to know get to know the person and show them that you've done your homework. Like, hey, I know you work here, or hey, I know you did this, or you wrote this paper, or you did this YouTube thing. That was really cool. Like, I'd love if you could help me with X, Y, and Z. These are things I'm working on. Like, this is what I've done so far. So, don't just come at them and say, like, hey, I want you to be my mentor. It's like, because, they're probably very busy or like, they've been burned before. So if they want to see somebody that's willing to do the work, we talked about like putting the work in before.
Yeah.
So if you can show them in your communication that you know who they are, you know a bit about what they've done, and there's something specific that you think they can help you with, I think then you'll make that connection. And if they don't respond, just know they weren't the right mentor for you.
Thanks for that. Thank you.
No
Thank you. That's
problem.
all.
All right.
Thank you very, very much for answering. Thank you, Michael, for your question. Okay, we have one more question. He says, it's from Promise. It says, my interest lies in becoming a GRC analyst. Do I need to learn hacking to be one? And also, what are the criteria in becoming one?
Sure. I will always say this. I think doing the technical work is always important. There are plenty of managers who I have who have done the more strategic work and don't understand the technical work. And when the high pressure situations come in, they default down to the people who have done the hands-on work. Now, that's not to say, when I was leading as a manager, I missed the hands-on work and I didn't have the time to do it as much. Um, but I had an appreciation for the people who were doing it. So if you're in GRC and you're explaining, hey, we need to fix this or we need to do this rule because, if we're not following PCI DSS, someone could do a SQL injection here and they could dump the database and they could find all the credit card numbers. If you've done a SQL injection in a lab environment, right? In a lab environment, because that's where, we have the authority to do it or authorization, then you truly understand it better than just saying these are the rules. You understand the why, right? I was talking about that with my kids, like, or with the people who work for you. You need to explain the why. So I think doing the technical work, understanding that hacking is important, even as in GRC. There are certifications that will help you with GRC. It's not something that I know a huge amount about, but yes, there are certifications, there are courses that you can take to get more familiar with that area. So I would say go for it if that's what you like, but spend the time understanding from a technical perspective what these different vulnerabilities are, why you're doing what you're doing.
All right, thank you very much, Clint.
Thank you very much.
So
Wait, I have one question. Sorry,
okay.
It's just my personal question. It's very fast. Don't worry. Now I'm not in cybersecurity space like you. Our gurus here, but it's a very very brief question. So I don't know if you heard of the Asian teenager, I think Roy Lee, that created this whole software that helped people to like cheat on interviews or at pitches, or he named it Chloe, right? It was the invincible cheater. You don't have to open anything, download it on your laptop, join a Zoom call, and as the person is talking, the AI is answering you. You don't have to look at another monitor. And so I want to ask that as a recruiter, as a professional there, is it possible for you to be able to spot something like that there? And if maybe the person later gets that role and you eventually find out that, oh, this was the way they were able to get it, what are some actions you could take to like curb that dishonesty? I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's becoming more and more difficult, right? As the technology is getting better and as we're defaulting to Zoom interviews, it becomes more difficult to catch when someone's being legitimate or not. And there have been plenty of cases where they've caught somebody or somebody started a job and they're not the person who interviewed, or they don't have the technical skills that they claim to have on their interview. So from the hiring side, there are techniques, like I think one is like to have them put their hand in front of their face, to detect whether they're doing deep fake type things. I'm not an expert on this, so I don't want to speak too much about like any type of like methodology to do it, but use your gut instincts. If you think like something doesn't look or feel right, go with that. But I feel like there will be more safeguards in place for recruiters and hiring managers to detect if somebody's using AI or not, because I feel like it is becoming a bigger problem. And I'm not going to tell you, as somebody who's applying for jobs, I'm not like, where can I put my iPad, or where can I like put my phone right here so that if they ask me something, like that I have an answer for them, because we want a job and we want to impress somebody. But no, at the end of the day, if you don't truly know that information, like, understand what job you're going to succeed in, right? You don't want to come in with them having an idea that you can do all these things and then you come in and you can't, because they'll suss that out pretty quickly. So do everybody a favor as somebody interviewing, and do the best you can legitimately, right? Don't use these aids, these crutches. And as a hiring manager and as a recruiter, research, talk to the community, figure out what they're doing to detect if somebody's using, AI or cheating somehow.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. I think Freda is frozen.
She's back.
I have a question.
Oh, is
I
it
have a
me?
question.
Sure, Gabriel.
Oh,
Okay. My question is regarding certifications, actually. When Michael was talking about certifications and passion, and you also talked about how you wrote your OSCP 3 times. One thing about our country, I like using our country and portraying it out. So one thing about our country is that most of these certifications are from the US or from Europe, and they have their price tag with their currencies. And if we want to convert it over here, it's some huge amount of money. So I was thinking, like, when you now have this passion and you know that, like, I checked the OSCP and it's costing about $1,600. If you want to convert that to Naira, you'll be going about 2.3 million Naira and stuff. That's a very huge amount of money to write an exam one time. And you will go into that exam with a lot of fear and a lot of pressure, because you know that they are spending this amount of money to write this exam. And you know that if you don't pass this exam, you have to spend that same money again to write an exam like that. I'm trying to ask, is there some kind of sponsorship that people actually give this scholarship for exams? You just have to put out your skill or apply for something like that, and they give you this scholarship so that you can go for these exams with a free mind. You know that, oh, I'm not spending anything. Someone is sponsoring me. I can just go write this exam with peace of mind and come out successfully without any pressure or anything like that.
Yeah, Gabriel, that's a great point. It's difficult, and I know I've not been fortunate enough to get scholarships, but I'll give a shout out to Betta Leon Del Sordo. She's on LinkedIn. She has like 8,000 followers, but I used to work with her. She said, like, I never pay, I've gotten scholarships for all the certifications I've taken. So she knows the secret to do that. But the other thing is, like, I think there's like free training on Google for like cybersecurity. I don't know if that's something where I think you get a certificate at the end, but you're absolutely right. Like, the pressure is on. I would say, like, equally as scary as SAN certifications here are monumentally expensive, even here in the States. Like, if you fail a SAN certification, which I have, um, you got to pay a lot of money just to retake it. And you have to think long and hard, like, am I ready to take this exam? I got my employer to pay mostly for, or use like school, like they pay for school um, to take these things. Or I've talked to my manager and said, hey, there's this exam that I want to take. So will you pay for it? So if you're in a position where you're just starting out, it may be incredibly difficult and cost prohibitive for you to take these exams. So, like, I think EJPT maybe it's like 400 US dollars or 200 US dollars. Like, I would say, start with what is reasonable for you, or see if somebody will pay for it, or see if they have scholarships out there. Or I think even like EC Council has different pricing depending geographically on where you are. And I know I said like CEH is looked down upon, but hey, if you can take CEH for a lower price point, or you can take things from EC Council because they're less expensive for you, then go for it. Because again, I think what will shine through um, is your passion for learning, right? Like, hey, I got this certification, or I got my CEH. I'd love to take OSCP, but unfortunately, I just don't have the resources right now, or I'm waiting for somebody to sponsor me. But in the interim, this is what I'm doing. I'm going through the free rooms and try hack me. I've taken some free courses or used my cubes and Hack the Box Academy. Just show that you're learning. Like, hey, even like Hack the Box Academy, if you take X amount of courses, like, you can get a certification from that. Like, hey, I took all the free ones. I'd love if somebody paid for me to get this certification, because I know I could do it. So, like I was talking about getting a mentor, if you're showing that you're putting the work in, I think a good manager will help you with that, or a good company will help you and sponsor and pay for that. Because I do know some companies are like, hey, in your first 6 months or first year, I want you to get the OSCP and I'm going to pay for it. So those are other good companies. Ask that when you're interviewing, because they say interviewing is a two-way street. I know the desperation of like, hey, I need to get a job. I'll take whatever's out there. But ask the question, do you pay for certifications? I want this certification. Will you pay for me? If I do the work, will you pay for me? So these are the places that I'd want to work for. And also, yeah, look for the sponsorships and look for what's free out there in the free training.
Thank you very much, Clint, for that. Thank you very much. It's very good. It's a very good question, because in Nigeria, things, the economy is not really very good, right? So thank you, Gabriel, for that. So I have one last question. This might sound like a very technical question, but everybody just try and understand. All right, so Clint, this goes for you. So when it comes to Active Directory, right? So you're doing a pen test, a box on Active Directory. What are some juicy ports that you look out for? For example, let me give you an example. If you're doing a Linux box, right, and you have probably SSH, FTP, XMB, you might probably just, or HTTPS or HTTP, right? You might go for maybe HTTP first. You might leave SSH because the attack vectors are not really so much like that. So when it comes to Active Directory, what do you look out for? What are some juicy ports to look out for? Because I know in Active Directory, you have to find a way to get credentials, and okay, does that person allow for no password? So what is your methodology when it comes to Active Directory? Sorry for those that are not technical, please don't.
No,
All right.
it's not a problem. Did it come from YouTube or did it come from here?
It came from me. It came from me.
Oh, it came from
My,
you. Okay. Oh,
yeah,
it came from you. Okay. Have you heard of Eternal Blue?
yeah, SMB. Mm-hmm.
Okay, what ports are those?
23.
Telnet. It's
Um,
Telnet. But Telnet is concerning. If I saw Telnet
uh,
open, I'd be very concerned.
okay. All right. So what of Active Directory? So it's that for Active Directory. Okay.
Okay,
So do
you
you understand?
could.
Do you understand my question? Let me explain
Yes.
again. Okay. All right.
No, I got you, but I'm asking, if you're asking me like what are interesting ports on the Windows box, especially with Active Directory, right?
Mm-hmm.
So SMB is interesting. There's 139 and 445 NetBIOS
Yeah.
SMB,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of Kerberos?
Yes. Yes. I just got into
Okay.
AD. Yeah. I don't really understand the rest. I just got into Active Directory, but I know about cables. Yes, for authentication. I know.
I think Kerberos is 88, if I'm not mistaken. There's also LDAP
Yeah.
that you'd want to
LDAP.
look
Yeah.
into.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's a few different, if you're in an enterprise environment, there are a few commands that you can look at to see what like AD groups you're in. And I'm not saying like go to your work machines and start doing this or at school. Like don't start
Mm-hmm.
hacking your machine without permission.
Mm-hmm.
But there are commands that you could run. Like let's say like you could use Eternal Blue. Hopefully
Yeah.
there aren't any machines that have it, but you could use that as like a foothold on the box, right, to get onto SMB. And then you could run different scripts from there, like Mimikatz, or I think it's called
Yeah.
Kiwi now, to do more of this Active Directory hacking. And just know, like, there's a difference, right, between a local administrator on a Windows box and a and a domain administrator, or what a domain controller is if we're talking about like trees and forests and Active Directory. When I talked about like different specialties in pen testing, like this is definitely a pathway that you could go down more
Mm-hmm.
into, is understanding like, these are things that you want to research, things like Bloodhound
Yeah.
or Sharphound, Bloodhound, things like that, to understand more about the different tools like Rubius, different tools. And I don't say just like memorize what tools are, know what they do, but there are a lot of times we'll talk about like assumed breach nowadays. Like that's a big thing where you're coming into things that in a pen test as like an unprivileged user. Okay. And I think even in OSCP now, this is like where you come in, like they give you user credentials. Like, so how do you use these user credentials to gain a foothold on the network and then move from that
Mm-hmm.
into, eventually onto the domain controller and, dumping ntds.dit, dumping all the credentials for the domain, right?
Yeah.
So as you can tell, I'm a little rusty in this area, but yes, there's plenty of research, and I know we just talked about this with Gabriel OSCP. I think Pen 200 goes more into Active Directory. There are courses
Yeah.
specifically for Active Directory, and I was talking a bit about Hack the Box Academy. I think they have an Active Directory path too. So
We do.
um, that's something that, again, do what you can afford, whether it's free or that might be like the tier where you have to start paying. But like you have to be
Yeah.
smart about spending your money, and
Yep.
that's why I do the free stuff first. And if you really like
Mm-hmm.
it, then start thinking like, hey, I'm gonna spend my money. I really like this AD stuff. I'll spend the money on these cubes to start going down this AD path, and then you'll learn. Like that's why I say I really like Hack the Box Academy, because I think
Mm-hmm.
they really do a good job of like telling you all the information and then kind of like baby step of like, this is how you do it. They'll give you the instructions and they'll give you like not as many, and then they'll say like, go for it. You figure
Yeah.
it out.
Yeah.
So if you're able to, I would try that path in Hack the Box Academy.
All right. Thank you very much, Clint. I have a last question, right? Do you have any courses? I know you have so many courses, but do you have any courses that are related to, Active Directory, Linux for OSCP? Do you have those courses that are technical, hands-on based, hands-on decks and stuff? Do you have those courses?
Unfortunately not. You know, the thing about the one that you took on LinkedIn Learning is that I had all these labs created for it, and then they took all the labs out because they migrated to a new environment, which is really like the core of my teaching is like hands-on, right? That's what I've been talking to you
Yep.
about this
Mm-hmm.
whole time. So they've taken that out of it, which is a shame. Um, there are like CVE courses in Cybrary that I've done. I've done
Mm-hmm.
OWASP Top 10, like OWASP Top 10. Like I
Yep.
tell you about the changes between 2017 and 2021. There's going to be new changes for 2025. But like I'll tell you about it, then you'll read about like an article, and then you'll actually have to hack something. So that's like my preferred method of like teaching you something, right? Is I'll explain it, I'll show you, I'll relate it to the real world, and then you got to do it.
All right. So,
Um,
okay. Yeah, thank
yeah,
you very much. So, because of our time, I would like to round off. But what's going to happen is I know so many people in the community are looking for access to resources like this, and we're really happy to have you. So, after the call, I'll have a discussion with you about some of your courses. If possible, you can provide some of them for the community. We would really appreciate it and really love it. All right. So, thank you everyone for joining. So, this is time for our photo session. So, turn on your cameras. Turn on your cameras. It's time for our photo session. Please smile. Gabriel, you have not been smiling since morning. I don't know what's happening. Please, let's smile. Venom B1, the very interesting hacker
Venom
name.
Bite, Venom
Yeah,
Venom
Venom,
Bite.
Venom Bite. Yeah. Venom, I think you're from South Africa, right? Venom is joining from South Africa. Please, can we turn on our cameras? It's time for our photo session. Stella, Promise, Venom Bites, everyone. I give like 1 minute for that. All right. Venom Bites, Stella. I mean, you guys need to know this already. We always have photo sessions. We always have photo sessions. It's very important. I mean, those who want to have a picture with Clint, this is, you can just take Clint to the American embassy, show him, say, I will be him, and yeah, you get your visa. All right, so
There you go.
yeah. All right. Venom Bites, we are waiting for you. You're one of the most important people on this call. I think Clint really loves your name. So please do us the honors. Turn on your
I'm expecting
camera.
a hoodie. I'm expecting Venom Bite to have a hoodie on, you know. Good hacker.
Yeah. Okay. Do you guys want to turn on your camera? Adewumi, are you going to turn on your camera? So just know. This is very nice. All right. Okay, we have and we have Venom Bites. I think is in a place where he can't turn on his camera. All right. Okay. All right, that's been done. Thank you very much. You can turn off your cameras now. All right, Clint, we are really honored to have you. We are grateful. I mean, everyone, please, was this not an interesting session? Did you not learn a lot?
It really was. It really was. It really
If
was.
if if you did
Hoping
not
for
learn,
another session.
this session should have been paid for because it's really amazing. We really honestly, I'm lost of words. All right, so we'll be
Happy to
ending
do it.
yeah. All right, we'll be ending in minutes, but I would just like to share my screen, right? So as we all know, in the community we have sessions every month. So this is a sneak peek for the session for May, right? We have our speaker. He's also based in the US. He has the OSCP, CPTS, the red teamer. He was in Nigeria before, moving from biology to cybersecurity, right? He will be our guest for the session in May. And who knows, probably before the year runs out, we can also have Clint maybe one more time if if he's not so busy. Because I mean, we need to have, maybe 5 hour session, OSCP session, 5 hours, right? So where we would learn and it's amazing, guys, amazing. All right, so I don't know if anyone would like to say anything before we call this show to a close. Anyone, any final words? Not sure appreciation to clients. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Anyone?
I want to say
Thank you,
a very
Clint.
big thank you to Sir Clint. You tried to really, I enjoyed the session. I enjoyed the session. And by God's grace, we'll continue to put in more work and study harder. And by God's grace, everything will work out for each and every one of us. Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Clint, because your career path looks, where you are right now, your career looks almost exactly like where I want to be. So I'm happy I could see that and talk with the future possible me here. Thank you.
The future you. Awesome. I'm very happy to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Clint. I'm just remembering when I chatted you up first on LinkedIn. I can't remember. That was probably January, and I didn't see anything. I just said, thank you for connecting with me. I hope for future collaborations. And here we are, right? So it's very important that we connect with great minds like this, and it's an honor to be speaking with you. All right, so that will bring us to the end of our session today. I wish this session cannot come to an end, but unfortunately, Clint has to go back to his family and his son and job and everybody. All right, so guys, thank you very much for joining. And also on our LinkedIn pages, we can also probably take a screenshot, post, tag me, tag Clint, tag Freda, tag everyone, right? It was an amazing session. And yes, I believe you took a lot out of this session. Also, the recording is also on YouTube, so you can also go back and watch the recording on YouTube. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a beautiful weekend. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Waiting for, okay, let me go off live now.